life has always been anxiety provoking. By all measures, right now, we Americans in human history are wealthier, healthier, safer than we've ever been. So
Mhm.
objectively, why are we more anxious, right? My threat to my physical body as a nice, privileged lady living in the suburbs is better than it's ever been. So why? That to me is the question.
Welcome to today's episode of Dr. Patty Ann's podcast, talking about real relationships. Have you ever experienced, or do you know anyone that's ever experienced anxiety? Well, this podcast is for you. So today we have a guest who is a movement builder, a speaker, author, consultant, and founder. And she hosts the Anxious Achiever. Is that a podcast? Podcast.
And a book. Yeah.
And without further ado, let me welcome Morra Aarons-Mele as today's guest. Welcome, Morra. Thank you so much for coming on.
Sure. Pleasure. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good.
Good.
How about you?
So I'm real loving life, right? What's not to love? But the world is crazy. Like the world has gone mad. And really, I was teasing this segment for our listeners, asking them if they know anyone that's been anxious. And I don't know anyone that doesn't know anyone who's been anxious. It really is quite disconcerting. What do you attribute I'm going to call it an anxiety epidemic at work, at home, in personal relationships and business relationships, parenting, spouses? What do you attribute that to?
I mean, smarter people than me are trying to figure this out. So I can just give you my opinion.
Don't sell yourself short. Yeah, that's why you're here.
My belief, and you know this as a psychologist, is that we're all anxious because we're human, and anxiety is a very natural part of life. It's impossible to get through life without feeling anxiety, right? I mean, at its essence, we need to be anxious sometimes. So, I think that part of what
you need to hang on, Morra. You need to expand on that for people so they understand that. I know what you mean, but I want to make sure people are clear on that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I think about anxiety on a spectrum, right? And so the sort of anxiety that we need and that we might even thrive on, what neuroscientists call good anxiety, is the kind of anxiety that you might feel in anticipation of doing something that's really pushing you to the limit, right? Say you are showing up at a new job, right? You're about to give a big talk. You're about to take your law school exam. I don't know, right? Something that is hard, that you care about the outcome, that you might even be worried about the outcome, right? So I like to think of anxiety as existing on a spectrum, right? And so at the top of the spectrum is what neuroscientists call good anxiety. And this is anxiety that is very much about a moment in time. That's a good way to think about it. It comes and it goes. And it's the kind of anxiety that you might feel your first day on a new job, right? Or you have a big swim meet, or you're taking your law school exam, or you're going to meet your boss for a meeting about are they or aren't they going to promote you. You're probably going to be anxious before that because there's a lot at stake. The outcome means a lot to you. It's bringing up a lot of sort of feelings and maybe worries even about who am I in the world? Does my boss like me? Am I good enough? But you know what? That's okay. It's motivating, right? It gets you even in the zone, but it comes and it goes. And then there's also time limited anxiety that might be because you've gotten a threat, right? You're driving on the highway. A truck tries to cut you off. You slam on the brakes. You have a fear response. And as you sort of try to get yourself back in the zone, you might feel anxious. Like, what is the next 40 minutes of the highway going to bring, But hopefully you're still able to drive, right? Like it doesn't impact your life. And so that's anxiety that we all feel. In the middle is the anxiety that I think you're talking about, which I am seeing at extremely high levels, which is sort of a chronic anxiety that things are not okay. I may have
Mhm.
trouble sleeping at night.
Are things not, you mean things are not okay with me or things are not okay with the world?
Can be both.
Both.
It's sort of ambient for a lot of us, right? Things
Mhm.
are not okay at work. What if I get laid off? What if the pandemic comes back? My
Mm.
kid's not doing well. So many questions because life is so uncertain. And that is what a lot of us feel, but it may not reach the level at which, at the bottom of the spectrum, anxiety is a mental illness, right? It's a disorder that
Mhm.
really needs professional help. The good news is because it's the most
Well,
common.
some scientists would disagree with that. Some scientists would challenge that in terms of it has to do with the wiring of the brain based upon trauma, but it can be undone. But it's complicated. It's
Uh,
complicated.
but even still, I would argue you need a professional
Mhm.
to help you
Oh,
learn
sure.
techniques and learn skills and get better.
Sure.
So I just all to say if you're feeling like your anxiety is so bad that it's getting in the way of your life and you're not functioning very well, please get help because there's such good help out there. And,
Okay, but Maura, but the question was, or maybe I didn't ask it, but why did, and maybe it's not true, but it seems like anxiety is so much more prevalent than it was, I'm going to say pre-cell phone, like than it
diagnostically,
was years ago.
yeah, diagnostically it is. But nobody nobody is ready to attribute that to the fact that humans are more anxious. Like when I think about the history of human life,
Yeah.
the chance that, 100 years ago, my babies would have, at least one of my babies probably would have died before it was 4 years old,
Right.
200 years ago. So I think that the human condition is one of anxiety. So by all
Wait,
measures,
hang on. I don't
hold on,
understand. Bridge that gap. You said
I'm bridging it.
one or
Hold
two
on.
hundred years ago you were just as anxious with that knowledge about one out of four babies would die. What was that connection you were making?
I was just about to make it. So
Okay.
life has always been anxiety provoking. And by all measures, right now, we Americans in human history are wealthier, healthier, safer than we've ever been.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm,
objectively, why are we more anxious? Right? My threat to my physical body as a nice, privileged lady living in the suburbs is better than it's ever been.
mm-hmm.
So why? That to me is the question, because I don't believe that humans are any less anxious than they were when we lived in war torn, plague ridden.
Yeah, that's my question to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
So,
Right.
so, so I think it's complicated. I think it's that we diagnose, like there's just a lot more awareness. You
Mm-hmm,
can also
mm-hmm,
see this in terms of like neurodivergence and diagnoses for autism and ADHD and all that stuff.
mm-hmm,
It's going up, right? Does that mean that there are more people who have ADHD and autism, or is it just that we know more? And I think that the
mm-hmm.
impact as a former digital consultant, that's what I've done in my day job for decades. Who was there at the birth of the digital age and social media.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can discount the impact of the fact that the world we live in is too fast, too stimulating,
Too
um,
much everything.
too much dopamine, too much everything. And there's obviously research emerging. So to me, I think that that's a huge piece of it. But I also, it's hard for me to say, like, are we more anxious than we ever were? That doesn't make sense to me either.
Mm. I'll challenge you on that. I do think we are. I do think we are, but perhaps our, you know, people forget that romantic love, like marrying for romantic love, I think is less than 100 years old,
Right.
right? Before you would get married for political alliances, religious alliances, right? Like, and the woman really didn't get to choose who her parents or her father decided she would marry. Um, and the expectations for marriage then were different. The expectation the woman would give you children and take care of all the home boring crap. And the man would take care of the family,
Mhm.
the finances. Today, like if either sex said one of those things for their expectations for marriage, you would like have like a time warp into, what century are we living in? So I think the expectations are different today, but I feel as if the anxiety is still more because, to your point, everything is, I think, especially for children, younger people and young adults, children aren't equipped to handle all the information that's coming at them. So let's go into the workplace. We'll first cousin this conversation. I think this is a first cousin. So what we're talking about today, leaders have so much more that they have to juggle as a leader.
Yeah.
From the perspective of, and this is not a criticism, but anyone under 35, maybe even 40 now, in the past, you had religion that gave you your morals for whatever reason. You had your family that gave you your support. You had your friends that gave you your social outlet. Today, we are so disconnected from so many of those things that people look for that support from work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden at work, it needs to be so many things to you other than just a paycheck and your purpose and doing good and, showing your talents and your ambition and supporting yourself and your family. Do you see that in the workplace? And do you think that creates anxiety? Because people at work will tell you, oh my God, these kids are so anxious. So and maybe it's just the stereotype as well, but I do feel like the role of work has shifted. And I think it's contributing to mental health. That's my sense.
I think that's true for high achievers for sure.
I think
I think there's a difference. So the people that I work with are very, very high achieving professionals who are extremely identified with their work. They don't know any other way to be. So I definitely think that that's true. And, you can see how these cultures of overwork are really creating monsters among people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right? And there was this recent lawsuit where some banker sued Goldman Sachs, right, for creating almost an addictive
the kids,
work.
The young associates. Yeah.
No, he was older. And so yes, 100%.
Where did that lawsuit go? I'm just curious. Do you know? It must be a different one than I know.
He didn't win. He didn't win.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And he'll never work again.
I mean, right. So, I mean, look, so I think that that's true for some people. I mean, there's obviously a lot of research on the loneliness epidemic and the lack of the third place in people's lives, right? The sort of atomization of community. And again, data that people aren't socializing anymore because our lives are online. So I think that's all a huge piece of it. But I also think that there's a lot more anxiety at work now because I think that it's just a lot harder. The world is very expensive. I mean, you can see that millennials are years behind previous generations in a lot of key markers of sort of adulthood, right? Buying houses, getting married, having kids, all that.
Okay, I'm gonna have fun with this. So I get what you're saying, but I'm gonna challenge that for a moment. Maybe they shouldn't be buying Starbucks latte for $8 every day either, that we didn't.
This has been debunked over and over again.
So what do you choose? So the difficulty achieving, I guess, adulthood, like the costs of homes, like have not kept up with inflation.
The cost of college.
Right. Well, that we could even discuss the value of college today.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I mean, to me, if you can't afford college, go to a state university. The research shows the top 10%.
But state universities are $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
Well, but they're not 85.
But they're 40 to 50. So
are they that much now?
Absolutely. Trust me, I'm in the market. So
no, I believe you. I believe you. So, I do believe you.
And I'm not an economist, so I don't actually want to talk about this. But I think
you're talking about the financial look, money is real, right? Money makes the world go round. And for many people, they say money doesn't make you happy, but the only people that say that are the people that have money,
Yeah.
It is one of the number one stressors. So I understand what you're
It's a
saying. People stay up at night
stressor.
worrying about it, which is
I
anxiety.
mean, the people that I work with now, the advent of artificial intelligence is going to wipe out a lot of really, really well-paying jobs that people
Coding.
depended on.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
the excess, coming back to the sense that a lot of us in the middle feel this sort of chronic ambient anxiety that the world is just not
Mhm.
okay. I think that all these factors are really important.
So I agree that we are in the midst of a paradigm shift, no doubt, right? You can look at that as anxiety provoking. I look at that as exciting. I'm like, this is exciting to me, right? Like at the turn of the century, when we went to the farms, to the industrial revolution, you lost all those jobs, but you learned new skills. I hope that's what will happen going forward. Just like Google, you Google information to learn didn't replace what we thought it would replace, right? You still have a job. It amplifies it. It helps you do it better, be more efficient, be more effective, all that good stuff. Tell me how you feel about this, especially because you're in how many children do you have? You're in the midst of the college?
I have
Three.
three.
Okay. So I have four children. I went through the whole college thing. It was so unnecessarily anxiety provoking. And I do want to stress unnecessarily so, but we all do it. We all do it. And the financial factor for sure. But in terms of a shifting paradigm and what used to be is no longer going to be, right? The way you navigate that, I believe, and yes, there's anxiety attached to it, but anxiety, there's good anxiety where you can up your game. And then there's anxiety as threshold where you choke, right? And you can't function. Athletes all know that. So what would your response be to the statement? We have failed to teach our children how to handle change, how to critically think, how to not protect them from failing so they can learn. Like, do you think that plays a role? Do you think that's a footnote? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't
I wish
know.
I wish the listeners could see Morra's face.
I honestly, that's sort of above my pay grade. You would just be getting my pure
No, I'm
opinion.
just asking you. Yeah, no. I am asking your opinion. You're a professional, you're successful, you're a mother, you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's different to ask you your opinion than to ask someone that just works 24 hours a day, never leaves their home, has no friends. That's a different person.
I mean, look, and I've, as I've worked a lot on, I've worked with a lot of the world's leading experts on how to help kids build resiliency, how to
Mhm.
help them thrive in challenge.
That's why I was
And
asking you.
I think that one of the things that I don't like, that I always want to say before we talk about this kind of stuff, is that I don't think parents should blame themselves. Like, often this conversation gets a little finger waggy. And I
Mhm.
know how hard it is to be a working parent in a
Mhm.
world that you feel like scarcity
Mhm.
is the name of the game. I mean, I live in a very competitive town where the stakes to get into college feel existential, which is, I agree, ridiculous. But
Can we say where you live in
I
the
live outside of Boston.
state?
I live outside of Boston.
And half the world wants to go to college in Boston. Like,
Yeah.
the people there want to go there, and half the world.
Yeah.
When my kids were applying in Connecticut, like, what is wrong with UConn? No,
Yeah.
we all want to go to school, and there's so many choices, and there's good choices.
Yes, and it's the most highly educated state in the country. So,
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I see it every day, but I also know that these are parents. They're not bad people. They're working hard.
Yeah.
They want to do the best by their kids. They want their kids to have opportunities. They worry that their kids aren't going to do as well as they did, and they're probably right. And so, I think
First generation, that's true. There's a lot of reasons for that.
we'll see.
As you like to say, it's complicated.
It's complicated, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, the point is that, I think that we overinvest in our children, and that
Mhm.
makes them anxious. Of course it
Mhm.
does. They're
Mhm. Mhm.
constantly reacting to an expectation and a standard and emotions. And that's really hard. And if we don't give them the tools
Mm-hmm.
to accept challenge, to get disappointed when things don't
Mm-hmm.
go their way, and also to just screw up,
Mm-hmm.
we're
Yeah.
not doing them any favors. And so I do often sit here as a parent in my town and think, no, I'm not picking you up from practice. You can walk home because it's good for you, which is,
How about don't carry their sport bag? Carry your own
oh, I never would.
school bag.
Oh my
That
God.
drives me when I'm at the beach.
Who
And
does
you
that?
probably go to the Cape. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Next time you're at the beach, drives me crazy. They now have this thing. I don't know what the hell it's called, but you put everything in it. You put the chairs, you put the boogie
Oh, I've
boards.
seen you like, it's like a wheelie
Right.
thing. Yeah.
My husband and I call them the dad becomes a mule. And the kids are just moseying on along. When my kids were little, all I asked them to do is put the towel around their neck, their own towel, and their own boogie board. And if they wouldn't take it, I would let the boogie board go and I would proceed to walk. And like, where's my book? Back over there.
Yeah.
I'm not playing with it. You are. And that's all part of it. And then it graduates to what you're saying at the high school level. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is, again, this is like a question of people who have the privilege to think about these things. But I think,
of course,
but I think it's real. And I see so much anxiety between the parent and the kid. Because the parent is really anxious that the parent isn't doing everything they're supposed to do to help the kid, but the kid is really anxious because the kid is like, oh my God, I have to be perfect. And it pings off each other. And of course, like I see that showing up for people at work. That affects how we show up at work.
So what are the tools when you were working with the resiliency? What are the tools that you were providing the children? And at work, what are the tools that you're providing? Because I have had CEOs and executives I coach and consult with tell me, you cannot give constructive criticism to anyone anymore. And then depending, there's a lawsuit. I just told you your work, isn't up to snuff. These are the steps you need to take. I'm not calling you out. I'm not calling you a name. It could be, I believe in you and I want you to fulfill your potential. And they feel that their hands are tied. So what's the tools that you suggest that you
So,
give?
for a long time, I worked, for a wonderful doctor at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and Penn Medical School named Dr. Ken Ginsburg. And he has a theory of parenting called lighthouse parenting, which I absolutely love. And the metaphor is really wonderful and you'll get it instantly. You want to be
Well, I just love the name. I just love the name.
Yeah. You are the lighthouse in your children's lives. When waters get rough and choppy and there's a storm, they can see you're there. They see the beacon. They know that if things really get bad, you'll call out the Coast Guard. But you're not the helicopter swooping in to rescue them right away.
Right.
When the water starts to get rough. And I love that because I think that, and Dr. Ginsburg would always say, like, if the kid's life or death is involved, or their health is involved, or the law is involved, God forbid, you dive right in. But if they are experiencing the normal difficulties, you have to let them figure it out. You have to. And so I do really worry about the culture of overparenting, and it's all the data is not looking good. I also really love Jonathan Haidt's new book, The Anxious Generation, where he has done so much research on the impact of social media on our kids, on teenagers, how it's messing with their brain. It's making an already hard time even worse.
Well, now we're learning, and maybe you can correct me or expand. Now we're learning, if I recall correctly, that like Facebook, and I don't want to get into trouble with anybody, but the algorithms are actually designed where they knew it was creating
Yeah.
a not healthy situation. That blows my mind.
I
That
mean,
how anyone with a conscience can allow that is just beyond the pale.
I mean, look, you, you as a consumer, you have to buyer beware. The business
Mhm.
model of these platforms is that the dopamine hit
Mm,
is the business model. They are
mm.
selling you and your reactivity. That is it. That's how they make money. And so I don't know why anyone is surprised when
I was.
the data comes out and it shows that they are manipulating our reactivity and our
I
instinct.
guess we didn't realize how successful it would be, which as you say it now, it's like a duh, you know, but I really,
I guess it's because I bought
I,
digital advertising for political campaigns for so many years.
oh my gosh, talk about that. Oh,
Well, I mean,
can we
that's,
talk about that?
yeah, I mean, you can't really do it anymore. Thank goodness it's sort of been outlawed, right?
Oh,
Because of the 2016 election. But,
wait, 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 wait. I knew there was something with, I thought the future of campaigning is like digital media and social platforms. No,
yes, but not outright buying ads.
really?
Yeah. But
So the ads that we
absolutely.
see aren't they all bought? I mean, look, we're going to be in the well, I guess we're already in the throes of the next election. Um, there'll be a ton of ads, right?
There it's a little bit nuanced, but there won't be the kind of ads, say on Instagram. You know how you might get an Instagram ad for a pajama set that is so fabulous and 100% you, and you're like, how did they know I love tigers?
Right, 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 right. Oh, I know, right?
How did they just know? Well,
Right,
that's the business model. Like literally,
right.
that's the whole point. They can't buy a campaign can't buy the equivalent of that ad on Instagram anymore.
But they know who you are. They know who
Everyone
Lee.
knows who everyone is. Everyone
Oh gosh,
knows.
that's
I
so
mean,
scary. Yeah,
as a
that's true.
marketer, and we never talk about this as how it affects our anxiety, but of course it does. During the pandemic, Instagram ad clicks for fun things like pajamas and, makeup and whatever went through the roof. Why?
Sure.
And guess what time they went through the roof? Midnight.
At night.
Why?
Mid. Now, why midnight? People were up. They couldn't
I
sleep.
mean, did you sleep well during the pandemic? Did you? I
Yeah,
mean, oh, well, God bless you. I mean,
you know why? You know why? I had an office at the time that nobody was in. So I
mhm.
would get up and drive to my office, which was like 3 minutes, and be in different four walls, drive home, meet my husband, and then we'd go out for a walk. So I did. Yeah.
That's
But I know that
awesome.
was the exception. I can't imagine having been in four walls. And like, to your point, the smaller the place you live in, like, so
Or
many
just
not
just
good
the
things
fear
happen.
of it, right? Like having, what if someone you live with is immune? Anyway, the point is,
Yeah.
you're stressed, you're anxious. It feels so fun to scroll through Instagram and buy yourself pajamas, right?
Mm,
So
hmm.
that is an anxiety response that Meta is distinctly profiting off of.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Um, yeah. Cause the whole thing with COVID, not in one camp extreme or the other camp extreme. I think it was a horrible, horrible thing that happened, a horrible disease. I'm not sure it was managed the most appropriately way. And it's to your point, it's out of my pay grade. Like,
Yeah.
you're not asking me for this stuff. But if you can't do, this is going to sound so dumb probably. If you can't do digital ads for political campaigns, you're going to crack up over this question. Then what the hell are they raising all the money for? What are they doing with it? Where's it going? What's it go to?
TV.
Oh, digital ads only. But do people watch TV like they used to? The
No,
young kids don't.
no. I
I
mean,
mean,
they have,
my daughter doesn't even have a TV in her place. She
no,
streams everything. I'm like, I can't
no.
imagine that.
Well, they can buy ads on, I mean, they can buy, this, I'm just talking about a certain kind of digital ad that, trust me, they have plenty of ways to
Yeah.
spend money. So there's no shortage of ways for them to spend money.
Okay.
But
Effectively.
yeah, I mean, look, is TV effective as it used to be? No. to your point, but it certainly reaches a good slice of the population who is more dependable in terms of getting out to vote.
Mm.
And they
Okay.
buy so much of it, there's literally none left to buy. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. I think there's way too much money in politics. There's so many things wrong with politics. We could go on and on and on and on and on. And there's enough guilt to go around across the board. What do you see as the biggest challenge in the workplace today, working with leaders?
Oh God, again, where do I start? I mean,
I'm asking you your opinion.
Yeah. I think that leaders are squeezed from the top and they're squeezed from underneath in ways that are very, very distressing. I think the short termism of our Wall Street driven cycle is my number one.
The quarterly reports are insane. I couldn't agree with you.
There is no way you can do your best work and invest for the future.
Correct.
And treat your people well and do the right thing and grow a great business if you are beholden not just to quarterly reports, but to a Wall Street run by machines.
Feels like minute by minute.
That's right. So I don't envy any CEO out there of a publicly traded company. So I think that's got to be really hard. So, and then I think,
do you think we'll ever change that? There was a time a couple of years ago, there was some bigwig who proposed we're not doing that anymore. I don't remember the details.
Yeah, I know.
It clearly didn't go anywhere. They'll all tell you it's short-sighted, but
they hate it.
Of course they do, right?
But I mean, I think, the growth of private equity and the fact that everyone's up for grabs. You see this in hospitals. I talk to doctors a lot. Doctors are miserable. Yep. They cannot do the work that they trained for.
Going to get worse.
That's
because
right.
The hospitals are buying it up and buying them up, the practices, and it's going to be story. I know someone not far from you who runs a specialized medical department in a very prestigious hospital. And he works with the best of the best. And he said, these kids come in their last year of residency. Next year, they go out to, practice. 5 o'clock comes, they're out the door. And him and his partner are doing the notes. He said he never would have done that. He never would have left the department until the note, like his boss left. Now, I do think, that might have been extreme, but I think there's an overcorrection. But medicine is becoming business. Period.
But why should those
have the concierge?
Why should
right? No. My point is, correct. But I feel like the pendulum shifted from one direction and now it's gone to the other. And there's got to be somewhere in the middle. There's plenty of money in healthcare. It just goes to all the wrong places.
Right. But that's my point is like, if you don't have the opportunity to go in and practice your craft and build a practice in the way that you used to, why should you stay late? Why should you be loyal? I mean,
the devil's advocate answer would be devil's advocate, not that I think you should be, because you're there to take care of people. It's that type of profession, but it becomes abusive. Look, if doctors could charge for return phone calls and emails and texts, and some of them are starting to, but if they could do it to the extent that lawyers do it, wow.
It would be amazing. If teachers could. Oh, I wish teachers could.
Oh, teachers. Because I remember when my kids are in school, they're a little bit younger than yours, just a little bit older than yours, just like I am a little bit older than you. And I remember when the email started. And I had a great relationship with all my kids' teachers. I'm friends with them all now. Facebook, Instagram, we still see each other. We had so much fun. And because I supported the teachers, right? I'm like, whatever you got, I'm there. Tell me what you need. And I remember when the email started, and I remember saying to this one teacher in third grade teacher, I said, whatever you do not start emailing parents. You will have another full-time job.
That's right.
I said, I have no choice. And anytime I see her, she tells me, I will never forget those words. And now, of course, it's created its own monster.
But that's I think the other biggest challenge for leaders is just the speed of digital work. The speed,
Mm,
the response cycles, the reactivity is not good. It's just not healthy. You can't do your best work, and everyone has to do it. When I was growing up, once you got above a certain level, you had a secretary. I was an assistant. That's where I started out. My bosses would never answer their own phone, read their own emails, but
right.
A, that was good because it gave them time to do what they really needed to do. And that world is gone, and everyone is just addicted to their phone and tied to it and answering emails at 10 p.m. And, I don't think we reflect, just as you said with the teacher, we just don't reflect enough on how that has changed work.
So hang on, but let me go back though to the leadership question. So I agree with what you're saying. What I tell my CEOs is, listen, if you're working, well, first of all, you're making a lot more than most of the other people. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Which I don't, to your point, I don't envy them at all. I think the stress is through the roof from the corporate perspective. Everybody wants a piece of them. But if you're sending an email out or if you're working at night or on the weekends, what I tell them is schedule the email to go out
Uh-huh.
because most people, in spite of, although that's not true. I know some kids in their 20s and 30s, they get an email on a Sunday. They've been with me. They're like, yeah, Sunday, I'm not returning that. And I'm like, it's the CEO. It's your
I don't know anyone like that.
son. Well, oh,
Wow. Yeah.
plenty, plenty. And they're not wrong if it's a behavior pattern all the time, right? If it comes to where you're working 24/7. But anyway, so I think little things like that, scheduling emails. I'm not a big fan of what Europe does because Europe's GDP is in the gutter, but there are some European countries where, well, what I should say is I don't, when people give the argument, well, this is how they do it in Europe, that means nothing to me. But when people give there's one or two of the countries where it's like you just can't email somebody after a
Yeah.
certain time.
In France, yeah.
I don't think, right. Uh, Now, I think you have to be reasonable, but I don't know if that's wrong. You know? Now, if you're a physician, that can't be the case, right? It depends. Everything depends.
Yeah. I mean, I just think we're in a really messy period when it comes to work. The change is coming so fast and furious. And I don't know anybody in corporate America or in large organizations who thinks things are good.
It's true. And it wasn't always like this, right?
I don't know, but I don't think so. I think we have to, I think I pray, we Americans, we're amazing. We figured out a COVID vaccine in how many months? Like
Right?
I try to have faith that we're going to figure this out, but
Yeah.
work is not healthy for most people right now. It's just not
Correct.
healthy.
And I think we're at a tipping point.
I hope so.
Things,
The AI Pollyannas will say AI is going to fix all of this. It's going to do all
gosh,
the
no.
crap, so you don't have to.
Just complicated.
But I mean, so we'll see. Again, smarter people than me, but when I work with clients, I really try to help them understand the parts of their day that are really, really triggering them and making them anxious. I'll work with senior leaders who have a meeting with someone at the C-suite board level, and they are physically nauseous before that meeting.
Yeah.
Because it's such
Right?
toxic. Yeah. And getting even on top of that and helping someone feel like they have some level of agency in managing that is really powerful.
So what's a tool you give them? And those same people on the leadership get nauseous when they have to have a conversation with someone that works for them.
Yes.
That's not pulling their weight, right? To your point. So what is it, some of the concrete takeaway tools that you're giving your clients on how to manage this? Because it's not going away anytime soon.
No, and I'd love to hear yours. I mean, the first is I try to give them the words to put it into words, right? Because a lot of times people aren't putting the feeling with the sensation, with the emotion, with the words, right? And so even that could be an aha moment. Like, why do I have a migraine every Thursday?
right?
Because I have the meeting with my sales director and he shamed me in front of the entire room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that piece. And then I think the second piece is really the middle piece, and this is important, is a sense of acceptance and this isn't about me.
Hmm.
If this is about me, if my sales numbers do really stink and I'm anxious about that, let's deal with that. If the evidence shows that it's not about me and I help them gather the evidence, whether that's their sales figures, whether that's feedback from other people, whether it's feedback from their other colleagues that this boss is crazy, whatever, I help them create almost like a dossier.
Hmm.
And I help them think about, is this a situation I can change or is it not? Because, sometimes you you can't change that other person.
Hmm.
You
And then
can't.
what do they do? What do you tell them to do? You're right.
I tell them
Crazy
to
is crazy. Can't
I
fix
tell them
crazy.
to inoculate themselves. They can
How so?
they can inoculate themselves with that knowledge, with a little mantra
Hmm.
or cue word when they start to get triggered in the meeting. They can inoculate themselves physically, right? By keeping a finger on their pulse or trying to manage their breath or some sort of physical way
Hmm.
to keep themselves regulated. I even will use tools from negotiation training because that thing when you're in a meeting or someone is starting to get your pulse up and you're starting to get sweaty and the feeling is happening and you feel like you have to respond to them, but you're worried about what you're going to say, or maybe you're going to
Hmm.
break
Hmm. Sure.
ears, or maybe you're going to tell them to go F themselves.
Hmm.
What do you do in that moment? Right? How do you start building techniques to calm your body down, to do what my friend Moshe Cohen calls slowing down time so you can
Hmm.
regulate, think of the right answer while this person is talking and triggering you.
Hmm.
And you got to practice it. And then
Well,
ultimately,
that's easy because people piss us off all day long. So it's a lot to practice. That's what I
that's
tell my
right.
clients.
And also this is a little woo woo, but for me, and I love Dan Harris and 10% Happier. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've read his
Hmm.
book, or I love
Yes.
his stuff. But for me, doing the loving kindness meditation,
Hmm.
especially when I have a really difficult person in my life, has been an incredible tool. Again, to just
Hmm.
lower the feeling, turn down the temperature, because
I
people
think
make us crazy.
well, we
That's
allow
what I
them
do.
to make us crazy.
That's
We
exactly
allow them to make us crazy. But I will tell you what you said earlier is so important. And this is in every area of our life, but it's easier in business to own it, which is it's not about you as a person. It might be about that's you as your role or your job. And what I am always telling people is you are not your job. Your job is what you do, right? So you even have to
yeah.
back up sooner and, be a full person, have a full life, which brings us full circle to, which is why it's a problem if all we're doing is working, right? Like, because we need to find joy and fulfillment and a sense of who we are in other areas of our life, which is not to say that what we do professionally is not a big part of who we are. But, I say this to physicians all the time. Physicians and attorneys seem to, I don't want to say be guilty of this, but be guilty of this where, the doctors are like, I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor. I'm like, no, doctoring is what you do.
Yeah.
You know, Joe or Mary is who you are, kind of thing. And that seems to give people enough of the distance
That's right.
between the situation, the stimulus, and when they want to react rather than respond to do what you were just describing, right? But if somebody, it's like you can never tell a mother she has an ugly baby. Because if you hear every criticism as you're not good, you're
That's
always
right.
going to be on guard, right? Because your brain is set up to protect you from a real or imagined threat. And everything, so many things today feel threatening. So we have to make sure we don't let others people's narratives become our own. Or as a very dear friend of mine who's a very successful attorney said, yes, let me stop everything I'm doing now and have your problem now become mine.
That's it. You know what? Dr. Pedian, that literally is how I would describe most of the people I know who work within organizations. That's their day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're upset. Let me just stop everything,
Right.
take your shit.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
right. But I will say, in the defense of the doctor and the lawyer, I wrote a book called The Anxious Achiever.
Hmm.
Some of us, that's just how we roll. And we are incredibly invested in who we are to the outside world. Our career is everything to us. We have put our blood, sweat, and tears. We are over identified it. What we know it, whatever.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Never going to change. It doesn't mean we can't have a great, I have a very full life, but my career, I feel like I do put myself on the line every day. It's just how I'm built. I've had every kind of
Hmm.
therapy. So I also have to learn tools to manage that
Hmm.
while
Hmm.
understanding that I may never become that person who's not going to work on a Saturday.
I don't even see that as the issue as much as I think, I actually think it's disconcerting when people aren't proud and aren't passionate and identify with their work. It's when that's all they
That's
identify
right.
with,
I think that's
right?
right.
That's, and it's a huge difference because if you look at it from an energy model and an emotional model, if your be all and end all is how you show up at work, when you showing up at work doesn't look the way you want it to look,
Yeah.
then who you are becomes questionable. And then we make questionable choices.
You
Okay.
know,
So I want to respect, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think another question then that's missing from the model of like the Thursday afternoon sales meeting is like, is that question,
Oh
and maybe it's
gosh.
better done in
Don't be
therapy,
that
is
one. Don't be that person. Yeah.
no, is why is this so important to me? Right? Is that question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. We're done.
Wait. That question should be asked to what? The person that's called into the Thursday afternoon?
Why the
Or
person
the
who's getting the
person
migraine and who's nauseous? Why am I letting myself
Oh,
have the
okay.
migraine? Why is that something I should look at?
Well, and many times people will say, because I provide for my family and I can't lose my job. And
That's
this
right.
person has power over me, and then we could go on. I don't usually say the Thursday afternoon. I say, don't be that guy that calls the Friday meeting. Don't be that jerk.
No.
Don't be that jerk. All right. So I want to respect your time and I want you to unabashedly promote yourself after this next two questions. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. This is going to be fun. So, you know, I believe very much in the imagination. And, I like to pull my buddy Albert Einstein, who said that imagination is a preview of the future. He said he discovered the theory of relativity by imagining riding alongside a light beam, starting as a kid in his bedroom, right? So imagination is powerful. So I want you to imagine right now a big box in front of you. And inside that box is everything that you ever lost in your life. What is the first thing you would reach for to take out and why?
Oh, oh God. It's a cat that got run over my freshman year of high school. Our dear family cat. And losing that cat seemed to spur on a just horrible year in which my life totally changed forever and became a lot different and a lot harder.
Hmm. Share any more? Comfortable sharing a little more?
I mean, I think it was just, I was a freshman in high school and it was the fall and there were a lot of leaves. And we think that's, the cat was like in the leaves on the street. And right after that, my father got really, really sick. My mother, they were in an acrimonious split. My mother sort of, for many reasons, sort of disappeared. She was still there, but emotionally, and she just
Yeah.
would not. And I really had to assume a role even more than I had been of really taking care of my sister. And I was at a school that was really hard and everything just felt extremely unsafe. And my family really
Mhm.
dissolved. So
Mm. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, because we all have things that we've lost. So that was so poignant. I'm so touched by that. So here's the fun question.
Oh, good.
What's the one song you can't live without and
Um,
why?
oh, wow. Oh God. Well, it's so cheesy right now, but it's a song from Taylor Swift's Reputation album. Actually, that whole album.
Okay.
I'm a Swiftie
Okay.
and I
Okay.
never was.
Clearly.
I'm a new Swiftie. I never was before, but
Do you have teenage daughters?
I have a 9-year-old. She's a huge
Okay. Yeah.
Swiftie.
Yeah.
And so we have enjoyed getting to be Swifties together. And I love that album. But the song is called I Did Something Bad because that album is about after she just went through, like the world, social media just spat on her and hated her. And she hid. She just went dark for months and months and months. And then she came back with this new album that was just basically like an F you to everyone.
Uh-huh.
And so as a working mom who's out there trying to win the bread every day, I think about the spirit in which that song was made and I like it.
So we talk about resiliency to bring this full circle. And clearly she's had the last laugh.
Yeah, no kidding.
Clearly, right?
I love
Right?
that about
All
her.
right.
I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Okay. Unabashedly promote yourself. Tell people how they can find out more about you, if they would like to work with you, if you would like them to obtain your material. Go promote yourself. Go,
I
go.
would well, oh God, this is so hard, right? I would
I
love you
know it's always hard for us
I would
women.
love you to buy my book, The Anxious Achiever. It's published by Harvard Business Review Press. It's a great book. It's fun. It's funny. And if you are one of us, you'll know it from the title. Buy it and it will change your life. I promise.
And Maura gave us so many little nuggets of gold from that book. So there's so much more in it.
Yes. And then you can listen to my podcast. There is 176 episodes for you with the world's leading experts in psychology, in performance psychology, and then the stories of people who manage mental illness, who are autistic, who have ADHD, who like me are bipolar, who manage and accept and even talk about what's going on in their brain and have incredible successful careers. I'm super proud of the Anxious Achiever. We won a ton of awards. And if you want to come talk to me, see how we can work together, if I can come speak at your organization, just find me on LinkedIn.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much. This was so enlightening. There's so much information. There's so much growth that people can get from this. So I so appreciate you and all your honesty and transparency. And this is really golden for so many listeners. So thank you for that.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Petty. Thank you.